You know that feeling when you are like totally hooked on a mystery? You're tracking the clues, you are right on the edge of this massive revelation, and then boom.
Oh, you hit the wall.
Yes, you hit a wall of blurred text. And hovering right there, literally over the most crucial sentence, is this little white box demanding a monthly subscription.
It's the absolute worst.
I mean, it's the absolute definition of modern frustration. You just want the story, but the internet has suddenly turned into this giant toll booth.
Right, and we navigate these, artificial barriers so often that they just become background noise at this point.
Totally.
Like, we barely even process the specific machinery of that toll booth before we're either paying up or just clicking away in annoyance.
Well, today we are turning that background noise into the main event. So welcome to today's deep dive. Our source material today is, frankly, incredibly restricted.
Yeah, very unusual for us.
Right. We don't have a massive stack of research papers or like a whole book to comb through today. We essentially just have that frustrating digital toll booth.
Just the roadblock.
Exactly. So specifically, we have the front cover of a title called American Kingpin, the epic hunt for the criminal mastermind behind the Silk Road. And it's by Nick Bilton.
Great book, by the way.
Yeah, but we don't have the book. We just have the cover, followed by like 10 consecutive screenshots of blurred out pages, which are completely obscured by a digital paywall pop-up.
Which is, honestly, it's like an exercise in digital archaeology.
Yeah.
By examining just the brass on the doorknob and the posture of the bouncer standing outside, we're basically going to try and reconstruct the exact architecture of the party happening inside.
I love that analogy. So the mission today is basically a masterclass in extracting profound insights from highly limited data. We are going to analyze exactly how a story is packaged, how it manipulates consumer psychology, and how it's ultimately gatekept in the modern information economy.
It's a lot to pull from a few screenshots.
It really is. So let's just jump right in and unpack the anatomy of a tech thriller hook. Because before a reader even hits that paywall, there is a very specific promise being made to you purely through the vocabulary on the cover.
Right.
So we're looking at 4 specific phrases here: American Kingpin, epic hunt, criminal mastermind, and Silk Road.
And I mean, notice how quickly your own brain just fills in the gaps, just hearing those words together.
Oh, instantly.
Right. Without reading a single page, you've already basically cast the movie in your head.
Yep, you got the whole aesthetic down.
Exactly. And that happens because those words act as heuristics.
Mental shortcuts.
Yes, mental shortcuts. They don't just describe a topic, they actively hack your brain's predictive text to establish a genre and, importantly, a scale.
So let's look at the mechanism behind that, starting with American Kingpin, because calling someone a kingpin instead of, say, a cartel boss or a mobster is a really fascinating choice to me.
It's very deliberate.
Right, because a mobster operates in the shadows, usually with, localized violence. But a kingpin operates a supply chain.
Yes, exactly.
It anchors the crime in a corporate structure, feels like a blockbuster movie poster. And by adding American to the front of it, the cover kind of borrows the exact vocabulary of venture capitalism.
Oh, that's a great point.
Right. It frames the narrative not as some seedy underworld street story, but as this twisted, rogue iteration of the American dream, like a self-made entrepreneurial empire.
And then you combine that corporate framing with the phrase criminal mastermind, and you attach it to the Silk Road, and suddenly the scale just expands exponentially.
Right, because of the history there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Historically, I mean, the real Silk Road wasn't just a single dirt path. It was a staggering logistical marvel.
Right, it was massive.
It was this decentralized, continent-spanning network of intermediaries and languages and currencies that literally moved goods across the known world.
And that historical weight does massive heavy lifting here for the book cover.
Oh, huge.
If you're running a modern Silk Road, you aren't just, selling contraband on a street corner. You have to literally design the marketplace.
Right.
You have to build the infrastructure that allows total strangers to transact trustlessly over the internet. I mean, it implies absolute architectural genius.
And that architectural genius dictates the nature of the pursuit, right?
How so?
Well, to dismantle a sprawling, highly sophisticated system like that, you don't just send a local detective.
Right, no, you need an army.
Exactly. So the cover uses the phrase epic hunt to signal the involvement of massive federal resources, competing jurisdictions, and this, prolonged cat and mouse game.
Wow, yeah.
The vocabulary alone engineers an expectation of systemic complexity, rather than just like localized grit.
That is so interesting. Okay, so if the title establishes that we are dealing with this purely digital empire and an architectural mastermind, that naturally shifts our focus to who actually has the expertise to dismantle or, in this case, chronicle that kind of operation.
Nothing.
Exactly. So right under the title, we have the author's byline. And it doesn't just say Nick Bilton, it prominently advertises his pedigree. It says, New York Times bestselling author of Hatching Twitter.
Right, in big letters.
Yes. Now, I have to present a somewhat flawed hypothesis here because this marketing strategy felt really mismatched to me at first glance.
Really? How so?
Well, if I am buckling up for a gritty, high-stakes true crime story about an illicit drug empire, why on earth does the publisher want me thinking about a book detailing the dramatic infighting of the guys who invented a social media app for short text updates?
Right, it seems disconnected.
Exactly. Isn't that a totally different vibe? It feels like promoting a horror movie by telling the audience the director also makes romantic comedies.
I mean, I get why you'd think that. It seems counterintuitive until you consider the actual mechanics of the crime itself.
Okay.
This is the crucial aha detail here. By explicitly reminding the reader of Hatching Twitter, the publishers are signaling that this new Silk Road was built by a tech founder.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
Right. It reframes the criminal mastermind, not as a traditional gangster, but as a Silicon Valley startup CEO.
Right, so the weapons used in this crime weren't firearms and shipping containers.
Exactly. They were encryption protocols. They were servers.
Servers and code. That completely makes sense because when we talk about digital scaling in this context, we are really talking about changing the fundamental physics of crime.
Yeah.
Like, a traditional drug lord is so limited by physical logistics. How much product a mule can physically carry, how many borders they have to cross, who they have to bribe to look the other way.
It's all friction.
Right. But digital scaling removes all of that geographic friction. You can facilitate the sale of illicit goods to 1 million people simultaneously without needing 1 million physical street corners.
And knowing Nick Bilton's background tells the reader that the author speaks that specific language. The language of Silicon Valley.
Right, he gets it.
He understands coding, he understands venture capital culture, and that whole ethos of disrupting industries.
Disrupting the drug trade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It implies the narrative will focus on, digital scaling just as much as law enforcement.
That implies the mastermind of the Silk Road is probably someone who talks about, frictionless user experiences while simultaneously running a global drug ring.
It's wild. It merges the tropes of true crime with the tropes of a tech startup.
Which is terrifying, honestly. We aren't just looking at a criminal, we're looking at tech bro capitalism turned extraordinarily dark.
Yeah, it creates a really fascinating sociological portrait. The cover essentially suggests we're going to see the exact same hyper-ambitious, rule-breaking mentality that drives legitimate tech startups.
The move fast and break things mentality.
Exactly. Applied to building a completely unregulated black market.
Wow. Okay, so having established this hyper-digital narrative purely from the cover text, the actual format of our source material adds a whole other layer of complexity.
Right, the audio aspect.
Yeah, down at the bottom there is a prominent Penguin audio logo. So this specific iteration of the story is engineered to be listened to, and it's a format that has just exploded in popularity for true crime.
Oh, absolutely.
But I often wonder, and tell me what you think about this, is consuming dense investigative journalism via audiobook almost too passive?
Passive.
Yeah, because people listen while folding laundry or commuting, Doesn't that dilute the intensity of an epic hunt?
Actually, I think it does the exact opposite. It taps into a much older evolutionary mechanism.
Really?
Yeah. Oral storytelling triggers completely different neural pathways than reading text on a page. When you listen to a narrator describe a high-stakes hunt, it artificially creates this sense of proximity to the danger.
Oh, that makes sense. Like they're whispering in your ear.
Exactly. It builds a very intimate parasocial relationship with the narrative. The audio format dictates the pacing of the tension, effectively trapping the listener in the rhythm of the chase.
Which is incredibly effective for true crime.
It's why true crime podcasts are so massive.
Right. But unfortunately, the rhythm of our particular chase hits a massive, immediate roadblock here.
The paywall.
Yes. We have 10 separate images of this book, and the actual text of Nick Bilton's writing is entirely blurred out in every single one of them. Floating perfectly over the blur is a crisp white box.
The digital bouncer.
The digital bouncer. Let's look at the exact mechanism of this digital friction, because the copy on this pop-up is honestly a masterclass in behavioral psychology.
Oh, it is.
It reads, let me get it right. You're reading a preview. Enjoy unlimited access to over 1 million titles. Continue reading.
Right.
I mean, this isn't just polite phrasing, it's a very deliberate UI trick. It's like a digital bouncer at an exclusive club, but instead of saying, stop, you must pay, it says, enjoy unlimited access. It disguises the roadblock as an invitation.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. It's a design mechanism utilizing what we call the framing effect.
Okay, break that down for us.
So, by focusing on what you stand to gain, which they frame as unlimited access to over 1 million titles, the algorithm is actively trying to circumvent your brain's natural loss aversion.
Loss aversion, meaning we hate losing money more than we like getting things.
Precisely. Humans feel the pain of losing money much more acutely than the joy of acquiring something of equal value.
Interesting. So this paywall isn't acting like a traditional bouncer denying you entry. It's functioning more like a casino chip exchange.
Yes, that's a perfect analogy.
Right. It temporarily suspends your awareness that you are about to spend real money by forcing you into this artificial ecosystem, this abstract concept of an unlimited subscription.
Right.
It makes the friction of parting with your cash feel invisible. Like, it deliberately doesn't say pay $14.99 to unlock. It just says continue reading, which implies this seamless continuation of your current activity.
When in reality, clicking that button initiates a very complex financial transaction.
Exactly.
And you have to realize, user interface designers spend thousands of hours A/B testing that exact phrasing.
Oh, no doubt.
Their goal is to minimize the cognitive load of a purchase. They are selling you a massive abstract abundance, 1 million titles, to completely distract you from the fact that they are actively denying you access to the one specific paragraph you are actually trying to read.
It's so sneaky. And that actually brings us to probably the most profound insight we can extract from this stack of blurred screenshots.
The irony of it all.
Yes, because we all know what a paywall is. We encounter them every single day. But the existence of this specific paywall, guarding this specific story, creates just a staggering ideological irony.
It's almost poetic.
It really is.
Because if you consider the foundational philosophy of the original digital Silk Road, it was billed as a libertarian utopia.
Right.
The entire architecture of the dark web, utilizing Tor and cryptocurrencies, was designed specifically to create a frictionless, unregulated, and boundless market.
No bouncers, no toll booths.
None. It was a technological rebellion against central banks, against government oversight, and absolutely against corporate monopolies.
And the ultimate promise of the dark web was the complete bypass of traditional authorities. So you as a reader are trying to read a story about a rogue, anarcho-capitalist digital frontier, a place where a brilliant coder tried to build an empire entirely outside the bounds of the traditional economy.
Right.
And your journey to learn about that completely unregulated world is immediately halted by the ultimate symbol of the heavily monetized, highly regulated modern internet.
A corporate subscription model guarding a walled garden.
Yes. The contrast is just brilliant.
It's stark.
The book title promises this epic hunt through the shadowy, untamed wilds of the digital underworld. But your actual lived experience as a reader is just being funneled into a highly sanitized, legally compliant corporate sales funnel.
Right, you were stopped dead in your tracks by an algorithm demanding a credit card, acting on behalf of a massive publishing conglomerate holding 1 million titles.
It perfectly highlights the contrast between the rogue digital frontier promise in the title and the heavily monetized reality of the internet we actually use.
Exactly. It illustrates the broader enclosure of the internet. Because we so often romanticize the digital world as this wild west of infinite freedom and rogue actors.
We really do.
But the reality is that the infrastructure we use to access that world, whether it's, an audiobook platform, a search engine, or a social media network, is heavily guarded.
Heavily guarded, deeply monetized, and tightly controlled.
Yes. The narrative of the Silk Road is about a mastermind who tried to control an illicit digital market. Meanwhile, the publisher and the audio platform exert their own massive, legally sanctioned control over the legitimate digital market of ideas.
Wow. So the barrier to entry for knowledge today isn't necessarily finding the information, it is navigating the commercial structures built around it.
Exactly. We are absolutely allowed to consume stories of digital rebellion, but only if we pay the toll to the digital landlords first.
That is such a powerful way to put it. Let's bring all of this together because we have pulled a massive amount of architectural understanding from essentially just a book cover and a pop-up window.
We really went deep on this one.
We did. We started with the mission to see what limited data could tell us about how stories are packaged and gatekept.
And we uncovered the mechanics of narrative engineering. We saw how heuristics like American Kingpin and Epic Hunt trigger our predictive text,
Right.
framing the story as a massive, corporate-scale logistical puzzle, rather than just a simple street-level true crime procedural.
And then we analyzed the shift from physical to digital crime physics. By highlighting the author's pedigree and Silicon Valley drama with hatching Twitter, the publisher completely reframed the genre.
They turned a story of illicit trade into a dark reflection of tech-broke capitalism and the disruptive startup ethos.
Exactly. And finally, we broke down the behavioral economics of the paywall itself. We explored how the framing effect and the illusion of seamless access basically trick our brains into bypassing our own loss aversion.
Ultimately arriving at that grand irony.
The irony. The clash between the unregulated libertarian philosophy of the Silk Road and the heavily monetized walled garden reality of the modern corporate internet.
Which I think proves that the packaging surrounding a piece of media often reveals just as much about our culture and our digital economy as the actual content hidden inside the media.
Absolutely. So to you listening, the next time you are online and you inevitably hit that you're reading a preview wall, take a pause.
Don't just get mad.
Right, don't just absorb the frustration. Analyze the packaging. Look at the specific vocabulary the platform uses to try and convert you. Look at the heuristics at play. You might actually be surprised by how much of the underlying machinery you can decode before you ever decide to click continue reading.
It requires active observation in an environment that is totally designed for passive consumption.
Very true.
And I'll leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on all this.
Please do.
If a criminal mastermind built a secret, sprawling empire specifically to bypass traditional rules, regulations, and financial institutions, isn't it perfectly ironic that the story of his epic downfall is ultimately gatekept by a corporate algorithm demanding you to click a button and pay a toll?
It's the ultimate plot twist.
It really is. And it forces us to ask, did the Silk Road ultimately fail because it broke the law? Or did it fail because it challenged the true masters of the digital domain?
Oh, wow.
The massive legitimate platforms that control the access points to everything we read, hear, and buy.
The real masters of the digital domain. That is quite the thought to end on. The X-ray machine might be broken, but the muddy waters of the digital world are definitely fascinating to navigate. Until next time, keep diving deep.